What's good, goddesses, goddesses, goddesses? Hope everybody is doing amazing tonight. Amazing. But I wanted to have a little conversation this evening and talk about something that I think is very, very important. I know that, being goddesses, we may have some of the hardest, or should I say, we have a challenge of really understanding the gods and how they think and what the hey, like, I don't get them. I'm confused. I don't know how to go about understanding men. And I think it's important that we have these conversations, ladies, because a lot of times I think we have a skewed or a misunderstanding about how men operate, how they think, what they think. And I think that sometimes we need to sit back and look at what is our source of truth in understanding the gods in our life. In understanding the gods in our life can mean the men, can mean the male companion, can mean our husband, can mean our fathers. You know what I'm saying? We have to understand that sometimes our source of truth maybe was causing us to have the turbulence or the misunderstanding or the misguided understanding of how men think, and really what's going on with why we seem to feel like they're from Mars and we're from Venus. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to talk about this because I think it's important that when we're sitting down and really trying to connect with gods and connect with men, and yet we find ourselves completely and totally confused. Like, they don't even think a lot like we do. They don't really have our same similar interest, and so we're confused as to how do we relate. You know what I'm saying? How can I relate to a man when we really don't have the same interest? Or how do I relate to a man when we have a different way of seeing things? We may not see eye to eye on a lot of things. And I want to just say that it's not our fault all for the most part. I think that at least historically we're taught usually about puberty. We get snatched away from interacting with the opposite sex. We're told, you stay away from boys, and boys, you stay away from girls. They're nothing but trouble. And so there becomes this wedge of disconnection to understanding the way men think, the way young men think, and how they operate and what they desire, what they like, what they need, what they want. We really start losing our touch with young men after we hit puberty. And it's not because of any other reason, but culturally we're taught to kind of stay away from boys until, from about 13 or 12 or 13, your parents start putting that wedge between the sexes so that so we can avoid unwanted pregnancy or sexual intercourse. And so I think with that disconnection, though, it has costed us understanding about the opposite sex. And so I wanted to talk about our source of truth, because I think sometimes we don't really know what is really our source of truth when we're talking about how men think, what men do, how men operate. What is our source of truth? Is our source of truth based upon our girlfriends? Or is it based upon what we see on television? Or is it based upon, I don't know, past experiences? Because I think that we may assume that we understand men based upon those few things, but have very little interaction with any men outside of that. And then we become pretty much like, I have a great source of truth, I understand them, and that's what it is. And then we find ourselves faulty when we get in a connection or in a romantic arrangement with a man. We're like, don't even know who this is, or what he's working with, or how he's thinking, or why he's saying the things he's saying. I'm confused, as if he's like from a different planet. But that's just not the case here. I don't think we sit down enough and think about, are we interacting enough with the opposite sex? Not just because we need them sexually, but what are we understanding from the opposite sex? What is our source of truth? Do we have enough male presence in our life? Male presence meaning, do we have enough male platonic relationships? Do we have enough male cousins we conversate and interact with and engage with? Do we have enough male energy in our life? Period. Just because you're not dating someone right now doesn't mean you can't educate yourself with men that are available to you and accessible to you, because you open up engagement, you open up conversation, you open up being relatable to them so that you can get an understanding. I think a lot of times our relationships look so bad and are such in a shambles because there's no understanding of each other. We don't really understand where each other's coming from. And so I think we need to sit back and say, is my source of truth really balanced here? Do I have a source of truth that my man, or that a man that I'm involved with or interested in, is my source of truth balanced enough to where I can understand him? He's not foreign to me. There is an understanding. There's a relatability. Is that here? If not, what can I do to get more acquainted? And not just acquainted with men, but also come to a point where you can sit back and you can start saying, oh, okay, I actually have somebody that I'm friends with, and in the friendship I'm able to learn some things that I wasn't able to learn before about men. See, what I ended up doing, because after I had my second divorce, I decided that, it's not that I didn't have enough male presence in my life. It was just that I didn't have enough, I didn't have a strong enough source of truth to help me to understand men, because my source of truth I thought was very limited. Yes, I had a strong relationship with my father. Yes, I had male cousins that I was close to. Yes, I have male, uncles and things of that nature in my life. That was all fine. But when I sat down and really looked at it, I really didn't have a strong source of truth that I could bounce off of to understand, oh, this is where men are coming from. And then, not to mention, when men would speak to me or talk to me, a lot of times my internal dialogue would be louder than what he's saying. So I couldn't really technically hear what he was saying. I called myself hearing, but I wasn't listening. So in order to get better with understanding men, you have to start to sit back and allow them to speak and allow them to engage with you and understand what they're saying, so that it gives you more understanding of who they are as men. I think we sometimes think, well, oh yeah, I know what you mean. And we just shut them off before they're finished talking. It's like, and I'm guilty of that. I know for a fact it took me a while to allow men to be so raw and talking to me about certain things without me having a preconceived notion or thought before he finished what he said. And I think that as women, we need to really get better with sitting it down and allowing men to be open and telling us what it is we need to know. And then for us to digest that with understanding without getting so caught up in, I want to finish what you're saying. I want to tell you I understand what you're saying by interjecting what I think you're saying. Perhaps we should just sit back and say, hold on. Let me just listen. And then in my listening, perhaps maybe I can hear better. And when I hear, am I able to not take what they say and then say, well, I don't want to believe it, but maybe just take it and listen for a minute. And then I always say sometimes when men give you the harsh truth, we'll put it in our mouth, but we don't want to swallow it. Truth is hard to swallow. So we want to be like, I heard what you said and everything, but I don't really want to acknowledge or swallow all of that truth. But sometimes that's what we need to do in order to advance as a woman, in order for us to get better with communication, in order for us to improve communication. We need to have a balance, and we need to make sure our source of truth is strong. When you have a lot of male presence in your life, women get a better awareness about men, about the gods in our life. We get more aware. Oh, that's what they mean. Oh, so what they say is what they mean. Because sometimes with us women, we'll say something, but that's not what we mean. We're saying something in a more encrypted way. And only me and our girls know what that means. But someone on the outside will take it literally. So we have our own way to which we communicate, which as with men, they're very specific and very direct. And it's very hard for us women to be like, I'm having a hard time digesting that. I would much rather, think that you're saying this because it's easier for me to digest. Well, that's not how it works. So again, I wanted to talk to you guys tonight just about perhaps making sure you have a strong enough male presence in your life to make sure that you are understanding men a lot better than just assuming you know them based upon your source of truth. Because I think a lot of times our source of truth is very faulty. We listen to our girlfriends about how men think, and 9 times out of 10, that is not at all even close to how they think. Or what they tell you is not even remotely close to what they think or how they feel. And so we have to get away from using sources of truth like movies, soap operas, talk shows, reality shows. All of those things as sources of truth needs to be dissipated. And you need to engage with actual men, talk to them, allow them to speak and listen, and then allow yourself to make your own understanding of how men think. And hopefully it will change the way your relationships with men are. It'll actually improve them. Because when you start to understand men, your relationships begin to look much better. Trust me. Always remember, ladies, goddess to goddess, you are a flame. Yes, you. So get lit and stay lit. This is Carla Nicole. I'm signing off. Best kept. Have a good night. Bye.